Votes week 3 range. Week 3 is just 65 and 265, 265, 9. I already read a couple of these pages, but let's see. Oh gosh, dang it. Wait just a sec. He talked about the 3 different levels. Where is it? Like the remote, possible, and where? Didn't I write that down? How could I not have written that down? What? How? How did I not write that down? I could have easily written that. Why didn't I write it? I'm so stupid. Why? Why? Dude, I'm so stupid. How? Wait, is it here? I don't think it's here. Dude, he literally wrote down the 3 different what things. He wrote down that. Why didn't I write it down? Remote, reasonably possible. What? Oh, come on. I gotta do this. And how did that even happen? How? There, fixed. Well, that was easy. We've only completed 4 out of 20 something pages. How many pages? 25. 25 total pages to read today. That was funny. Oy, 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 oy. And why are there so many pages of application? I skipped reading most of the application last week, and I did pretty well on the quiz anyways. Like, I wonder if we could just skip the application and just always just read the rules by themselves. Oy, 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 oy. I feel like There's a missing page of notes. I feel like I wrote stuff in one of these two things, but they're not in here. What if I accidentally wrote it in the wrong one? There's no way I wrote it. There's no way. Dude. Stop. Why did the margins change? Do they change every other page? That's so weird. I wonder why they do that. It's like they shift the text from the left to the right over and over again. I don't know why they do that. Wait. It's got to be because it's a physical book. So like if it's shifted to the left, that means it's on the right or page. It's on the front side of a page or on the right side when the book is open. I don't feel like taking a quiz. Page 7. What about this? What about this? Oh man. Ooh. Wait, what about 11, 12? Like, the 11, 12, 13 one should probably be the more important. That was funny. It's funny. Wow. That was funny. Gosh dang. $16 paragraphs. 16. Wow. How are there 9 pages of material for the application of reference paragraphs or paragraphs 14 to 16? How are there 9 pages of application for that? How? Oh my gosh. What? It looks like this might be it. And then what's the rest of it? Appendix. Oh, fun. Oh, fun. There's an appendix. That's what takes up a lot of the pages, actually. What is in that appendix? Is it even important? I want to see exactly. That's funny. I just want to see the exact time that I started the video. I mean, and I actually have an exact clock here on my phone. I figured this out because it says it's 9:12:55. So let's see the exact time that I started. Ooh, wow. And I think my phone clock and the computer clock are exactly lined up. Nice. I wonder if I should always just have an exact clock on the bottom right of my computer that includes the seconds. It wouldn't even be that much to add the seconds onto it, would it? That'd be really cool. Maybe I should do that at some point. So I started at exactly 41. 8:13:41 is when I started. 8:13:41. But who cares? It's 8:13. Who cares about the seconds? That was funny. So, but it was 8:13. Oh my goodness. That's funny. So now we have a bunch of. Oh my gosh. We have a bunch of
appendices. Appendices.
We have a bunch of appendices. Sounds so weird. Examples of circumstances that may be deficiencies, significant deficiencies. Oh, I really hope we don't have to list examples in our quiz. Oh no! What if he's like, list 5 examples of a deficiency in internal? Oh no! Oh no! A11? Okay. Deficiencies in the design of controls. Also, they didn't really specify, they didn't really go into detail about design versus operating efficiency. They didn't really go into detail about that, did they? That's funny. Like, what? Where's the design versus blah, blah, blah? Stop! Are examples of circumstances that may be deficiencies. Significant deficiencies or material weaknesses related to the design of controls. Inadequate design of controls over the preparation of the financial statements being audited. Wow, what a great example. Inadequate design of controls over a significant account or process. Inadequate documentation of the components of internal control. Insufficient control consciousness within the organization, for example, the tone at the top in the control environment. Evidence of ineffective aspects of the control environment. Dude, I bet he's gonna tell us to give examples. Oh no, maybe I should just memorize. I should just like pick a few and memorize them or something. Oh no. No. Like maybe I'll just pick 5 and memorize them, and then if there's a question in the quiz that says give 5 examples of deficiencies. Oh my gosh, these are just deficiencies in the design. There's also deficiencies or failures in the operation of controls. And then there's another exhibit. Wait a minute. There's an appendix, and then there's an exhibit. What? Exhibit A. Illustrative auditor's written communication. Oh, man. And then we have Exhibit B. Illustrative no material weakness communication. Gosh. Evidence of ineffective aspects of the control environment, such as indications that significant transactions in which management is financially interested are not being appropriately scrutinized by those charged with governance. Evidence of an ineffective entity risk assessment process, such as management's failure to identify a risk of material misstatement that the auditor would expect the entity's risk assessment process to have identified. Evidence of an ineffective response to identified significant risks, for example, absence of controls over such a risk, absent or inadequate segregation of duties within a significant account or process, absent or inadequate controls over the safeguarding of assets. This applies to controls that the auditor determines would be necessary for effective internal control over financial reporting. Inadequate design of IT general and application controls that prevents the information system from providing complete and accurate information consistent with financial reporting objectives and current needs. Employees or management who lack the qualifications and training to fulfill their assigned functions. How is that even a design error? I thought that was an operating thing. What? Come on. Wait, do I need to memorize 5 examples of each? There's no way. Maybe I'll just do 3 of each. No. How is this a design thing? I thought this was part of the operating. Man. Inadequate design of monitoring controls used to assess the design and operating effectiveness of the entity's internal control over time. Absence of an internal process to report deficiencies. Oh my God. Absence of an internal process to report deficiencies in internal control to management on a timely basis. Absence of a risk assessment process within the entity when such a process would ordinarily be expected to have been established. Failures in the operation of controls. The following are examples of circumstances that may be deficiencies, significant deficiencies, or material weaknesses related to the operation of controls. Failure in the operation of effectively designed controls over a significant account or process. For example, the failure of a control, such as dual authorization for significant disbursements within the purchasing process. Failure of the information and communication component of internal control to provide complete and accurate output because of deficiencies in timeliness, completeness, or accuracy. For example, the failure to obtain timely and accurate consolidating information from remote locations that is needed to prepare the financial statements. Failure of controls designed to safeguard assets from loss, damage, or misappropriation. This circumstance may need careful consideration before it is evaluated as a significant deficiency or material weakness. For example, assume that a company uses security devices to safeguard its inventory, preventative controls, and also performs timely periodic physical inventory counts, detective control with regard to its financial reporting. Although the physical inventory count does not safeguard the inventory from theft or loss, it prevents a material misstatement of the financial statements if performed effectively and timely. Therefore, given that the definitions of material weakness and significant deficiency relate to the likelihood of misstatement of the financial statements, the failure of a preventative control such as inventory tags will not result in a significant deficiency or material weakness if the detective control physical inventory counts prevents a misstatement of the financial statements. Material weaknesses relating to controls over the safeguarding of assets would only exist if the company does not have effective control, considering both safeguarding and other controls to prevent or detect and correct a material misstatement of the financial statements. Failure to perform reconciliations of significant accounts. How is it? For example, accounts receivable subsidiary ledgers are not reconciled to the general ledger account in a timely or accurate manner. Undue bias or lack of objectivity by those responsible for accounting decisions. For example, consistent understatement of expenses or overstatement of allowances. at the direction of management, misrepresentation by entity personnel to the auditor, an indicator of broad management override of controls, failure of an application control caused by a deficiency in the design or operation of an IT general control, an observed deviation rate that exceeds the number of deviations expected by the auditor in a test of the operating effectiveness of a control. For example, if the auditor designs a test in which he or she selects, that is the first time they ever said that. That's the first time they ever used a pronoun for the auditor, I think. My goodness. If the auditor designs a test in which he or she selects a sample and expects no deviations, the finding of one deviation is a non-negligible deviation rate, because based on the results of the auditor's test of the sample, the desired level of confidence was not obtained. Now we have exhibit illustrative auditor's written communication. I can't be bothered to read that. Ay, 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 ay. Fine. For some reason, I'm actually doing better reading it out loud, because when I was reading it in my head, I was kind of just pausing way too often and not reading. That was funny. To management and the board of directors of ABC Company in planning and performing an audit of the financial statements of ABC Company. What? Dude, there's no way they put this part in. What? As of and for the year ended December 31st, something. In accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, we consider the company's internal control over financial reporting, internal control, as a basis for designing audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances for the purpose of expressing our opinion on the financial statements, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the company's internal control. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the company's internal control. Our consideration of internal control was for the limited purpose described in the preceding paragraph and was not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and therefore material weaknesses or significant deficiencies may exist that were not identified. However, as discussed below, we identified certain deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. A deficiency in internal control exists when the design or operation of a control does not allow management or employees Did I already write that? Did I write the definition of that? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I already wrote the deficiency definition. Prevent or detect and correct misstatements on a timely basis. A material weakness is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity's financial statements will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. We consider the following deficiencies in the company's internal control to be material weaknesses. Describe the material weaknesses that were identified and an explanation of their potential effects. A significant deficiency is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control that is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance. We consider the following deficiencies in the company's internal control to be significant deficiencies. Describe the significant deficiencies that were identified and an explanation of their potential effects. If the auditor is communicating significant deficiencies and, and, and did not identify any material weaknesses, the auditor may state that none of the identified significant deficiencies are considered to be material weaknesses. This communication is intended solely for the information and use of management, those charged with governance, others within the organization, and other governmental authorities, and is not intended to be and should not be used by anyone other than these specified parties. There. Now, an example of illustrated no material weaknesses communication in planning and performing. We considered the organization's internal control over financial reporting as a basis for designing audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances for the purpose of expressing our opinion on the financial statements, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the organization's internal control. If one or more significant deficiencies have been identified, the auditor may add the following. Finally, we're done with that. 6 more pages. That's it. It's just 6 more pages. That's all you have. Me. Why is my internet being stupid?
I'm very proud.
What the heck is going on with this? What? Let me just try to reconnect this. Reopen it. Oh, instead of writing this thing out, so you would just get on your second thing? Or is this going to have like a 3 hour or something? So, communication of significant deficiencies. Communication of significant. That was funny. Communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses prior to the completion of the compliance audit for participants in office of Management and Budget Single Audit Pilot Project. Oh my gosh, what is this? On October 7th, 2009, the Office of Management and Budget published the parameters of a pilot project, which is a collaborative effort between volunteer non-federal entities expending American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 awards auditees. The auditors performing compliance audits of auditees with ARRA expenditures under OMB. Oh my gosh. For auditees that volunteer, the pilot project requires their auditors to issue to management an early written communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses in internal control over compliance at an interim date prior to the completion of the compliance audit. Such communication would be based on internal control work performed on specified compliance requirements for two major programs with ARRA expenditures chosen from a list of approved ARRA pilot project programs. This communication also would be required to be submitted by management to the cognizant agency for audit. May an auditor issue such an interim communication in accordance with Section 265? Interpretation: yes. Section permits an auditor to communicate to management identified significant deficiencies and material weaknesses before the completion of a financial statement audit. It would be equally appropriate for a compliance audit. Regardless of how the early communication is delivered, the auditor should communicate all the significant deficiencies and material weaknesses in writing to management and those charged with governance in accordance with Section 265. The following is an illustrative communication that an auditor may use to comply with the pilot project communication requirement, to inform management and those charged with governance of deficiencies in internal control over compliance related to ARRA funding have been identified at an interim date prior to the completion of the compliance audit and are, or likely to be, in the auditor's judgment, significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control over compliance. This communication is provided pursuant to the parameters of the 2009 Office of Management and Budget OMB pilot project. Such project requires auditors of entities that volunteer for the project to issue in writing an early communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses in internal control over compliance for certain federal programs having expenditures of American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 ARRA funding at an interim date prior to the completion of the compliance audit. Accordingly, this communication is based on our audit procedures performed through this date. An interim period. Because we have not completed our compliance audit, additional and significant deficiencies and material weaknesses may be identified and communicated in our final report on compliance and internal control over compliance issued to meet the reporting requirements of OMB Circular A-133 audits of states, local governments, and nonprofit organizations. In planning and performing our audit through this date of the federal programs selected to be tested as a major program from the federal list of approved ARRA pilot project programs we are considering. Example entities. Compliance with the applicable types of compliance requirements subject to the communication requirement in the pilot project. For example, activities allowed to... I don't care. Why? I don't feel like reading all this stuff. Oh my goodness. communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses prior to the completion of the compliance audit. For auditors that are not participants in Office of Management and Budget pilot project, stresses the importance of internal control test work. For major programs with the ARA expenditures and encourages early communication to management and those structural governments any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control. Early communication by auditors. If the auditor decides to make such a communication in writing at an interim date, may the auditor issue an interim communication in accordance. Dude. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna just say this. That what? Funny. Also, it says do not even give an interim communication about that fact that there are no material weaknesses. That was funny. So. Appropriately communicate. And management deficiencies in internal control. Deficiency in internal control. It's almost been 2 hours now. Deficiency in internal control. A deficiency in internal control over financial reporting exists when the design or operation. Dude, I'm certain I wrote something. I'm certain I wrote, like... Wait a minute. I'm certain there's stuff I wrote that's missing. Where is it? Did I forget to save it or what? I must have. I must have forgotten to save it because I'm certain I wrote like the 2 different types of something. Why? What? Where is it though? What? There has to be something missing. Did I accidentally write in governmental accounting instead? I have to have written it here accidentally. What? Why? There's like a bunch of stuff that I've read in this section that I feel like I've written down, but I didn't. But I'm sure I did. There's a bunch of stuff I wrote down in my class and somehow lost it. I don't know how. How? Or maybe what I wrote it and then deleted it. I don't know. A deficiency in internal control over financial reporting exists when the design or operate. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was going to memorize the stinking things. Gosh, I don't want to memorize examples. Man, I don't want to memorize examples. It takes too much effort. What if it's not all for nothing? Does not allow management or employees in the normal course of reporting their assigned functions to prevent or detect and correct misstatements on a timely basis. A deficiency in design, that was funny, exists when a control necessary to meet the control objective is missing, or an existing control is not properly designed so that even if the control operates as designed, the control objective would not be met. A deficiency in operation exists when a properly designed control does not operate as designed, or when the person performing the control does not possess the necessary authority or competence to perform the control effectively. Material weakness. A deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity's financial statements will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. A reasonable possibility exists when the likelihood of an event occurring is either reasonably possible or probable. Reasonably possible. Oh, the chance of the future event or events occurring is more than remote, but less than likely probable. The future event or events are likely to occur. Significant deficiency. A deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting that is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance requirements. Determination of whether deficiencies in internal control have been identified. The auditor should determine whether, on the basis of the audit work performed, the auditor has identified one or more deficiencies in internal control. Evaluating identified deficiencies in internal control. If the auditor has identified one or more deficiencies in internal control, the auditor should evaluate each deficiency to determine, on the basis of the audit work performed, whether individually or in combination they constitute significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. If the auditor initially determines that a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control is not a material weakness, the auditor should consider whether prudent officials, having knowledge of the same facts and circumstances, would likely reach the same conclusion. Communication of deficiencies in internal control. The auditor should communicate in writing to those charged with governance on a timely basis significant deficiencies and material weaknesses identified during the audit, including those that were remediated during the audit. The auditor also should communicate to management at an appropriate level of responsibility on a timely basis in writing significant deficiencies and material weaknesses that the auditor has communicated or intends to communicate to those charged with governance, unless it would be inappropriate to communicate directly to management in the circumstances. I really feel like eating pizza right now. And I wish I could just wish a pizza into existence. I bet we don't even have a pizza here. In writing or orally, other deficiencies in internal control identified during the audit that have not been communicated to management by other parties and that in the auditor's professional judgment are of sufficient importance to merit management's attention. If other deficiencies in internal control are communicated orally, the auditor should document the communication. The communications referred to in paragraphs 11 to 12 should be made no later than 60 days following the report release date. The auditor should include in the auditor's written communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses the definition of the term material weakness and, when relevant, the definition of the term significant deficiency, a description of the significant deficiencies and material weaknesses and an explanation of their potential effects. Sufficient information to enable those charged with governance and management to understand the context of the communication. In particular, the auditor should include in the communication the following elements that explain that the purpose of the audit was for the auditor to express an opinion on the financial statements. The audit included consideration of internal control over financial reporting in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal control. The auditor is not expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal control. The auditor's consideration of internal control was not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and therefore material weaknesses or significant deficiencies may exist that were not identified. An appropriate alert that restricts the use of the auditor's written communication. When the auditor issues a written communication stating that no material weaknesses were identified during the audit, the communication should include the matters in paragraph 14A and C through D. The auditor should not issue a written communication stating that no significant deficiencies were identified during the audit. And then I think we just need to all these definitions, and then I just copied 14. Do I really have to go through and memorize 6 examples? Oh, no. Fine. Come on, it's not that hard. I'm good at memorizing. That was funny. Deficiency example. 3 examples of okay, so dang, I don't want to. Oh, okay. Do I want to screw myself and not memorize these examples? If he asks for the examples, I'll be prepared. It doesn't matter if they're verbatim. They're correct. He's not going to take points off for copying things to verbatim. Never mind, I'm not doing it. I don't like all these examples. Dude, they're not specific enough. All these examples are very general. Three examples of the following are examples. They say this. They say, but isn't like the fact that it was not performed is an operation. But if okay, you know what? You know what? This one's such simple that I may as well just do it. That's fine. Okay. I don't memorize all these. No. Oh no.